What's up again there, guys? Brian here with 3 topics going to be here to share with you another episode of my weekly Q&A where I answer a series of questions that have been sent to me over the past week. This episode, I'm not sure if it might be pretty average lengthwise, but to my surprise, I only got about 6 questions, but in a positive way, all 6 of them I thought were actually video worthy, so that's kind of a bit of a rarity. So if you happen to enjoy this little episode of mine, please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe so you keep track of me on my future videos. And remember, if you have any more ideas for future rankings, or reviews, or just topic ideas in general, just let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be sure to get those up as soon as I can. So, starting off with the first question, I think all of these are regulars except for the last person who I was sure to save for last. But the first question comes from Knighted Slayer, and you want to know, what things do I think make a reboot good or a bad reboot? Okay, I think a good reboot is good when you built upon what made the original good, or there was a potential flaw with the original that you want to improve, or you want to modernize it. In some cases, I think one of the best examples, just in recent years, I thought was the Resident Evil 2 remake. I really do think that those first generation of Resident Evil games, at least to me, are completely unplayable. So the fact that they are taking those older games and just kind of modernizing them with kind of a little bit of the updated version of the Resident Evil 4 gameplay mechanics, I thought was a serious plus. I think it's a bad idea to remake something, especially when you're messing with the story and you start taking it in directions or adding ideas or influences that just kind of just make the story messy. So that's probably a decent example, just kind of the things that I prefer to not have in my remakes, but sometimes they do that and it's a serious negative, at least in my opinion. So those are just a couple examples of what not to do and what to do for certain remakes. Next question comes from a Black Shadow Knight, and you want to know, if I had to obscure video games that almost no one ever talks about that I really like, what ones do I recommend to try out? Okay, so, sorry, I had to pause for a second, I had to think about this. Oh, okay, games that I think are good that not a lot of people talk about. Singularity, I think, is a good one. That one no one really talks about. Vanquish, that's a good one. I think not enough people talk about Metal Gear Rising. Thought that was an amazing hack and slash. It's too bad they couldn't make a sequel to that. Maybe Ni no Kuni 2. I thought that was pretty good. Not a lot of people talk about that either. So those are just 4 obscure games that not a lot of people talk about that I wish got a little bit more attention because I really like them. Next question comes from Zach Tarp. You want to know, so what do I think of the new upcoming Assassin's Creed game going back to old school style Assassin's Creed games? I think it's okay. I guess they kind of want to take it back a little bit. I personally wasn't a fan of Valhalla. I couldn't finish it. I just kind of stopped. So I think that with like Assassin's Creed, like Odyssey and Origins, I think the combat system was a little too action focused. So perhaps they just want to kind of go back to basics, back to the era of like Assassin's Creed 2 or 3 or 4, go back to that era, or kind of go back to that format. And if they want to do it, I think they picked a perfect setting to do that in. I also heard that they were also working on a few other projects in different eras and different places in the world. So I'm curious to see what those are. But as far as Assassin's Creed Mirage, yeah, that's definitely piqued my interest, and that's certainly something that I think I can see myself playing when it comes out. Hopefully sometime next year, I'm guessing. Next question comes from Shao Desus Gaming, and you want to know, I know you don't like versus questions, which I don't, but I had to ask this one. Who would win and why? Albert Wesker or Solid Snake? You're right, I don't really like versus questions, especially since they're one-sided, it's almost insulting. What the hell is Solid Snake going to do with Wesker? Seriously, what's he going to do? Okay, guns aren't going to work. Hand-to-hand combat's not going to work. Wesker probably would kill Snake in a matter of seconds. I mean, all he's got to do is just grab Snake by the neck and kill him. And I'm sorry, but Snake's never even really faced anyone who can move that fast. And when he has, like in the example of Vamp could actually move that fast and really overpowered him. and probably would have been killed in Metal Gear Solid 2 if Raiden hadn't saved him. So, yeah, I think Snake going up against someone like Wesker one-on-one would probably not do too well. I mean, just me. Snake is good, but he's really good in his own world. When he starts stepping out of his own world into other franchises, he typically isn't going to do too well, and that's a clear example of why. Next question comes from Brady Burke. He wants to know, if Ghost of Tsushima gets a sequel, what are my expectations? Well, my expectations are it's going to be better than the first game. I would expect them to kind of go to a different island and get away from Tsushima, and probably go a little bit more in depth with the Legend of the Ghost. I really thought that Rise of the Ronin, at first glance, I thought that that was going to be Ghost of Tsushima sequel, but it's not. It's its own thing, and it's actually something I wasn't even expecting it to be just from first glance. But yeah, I just hope it's good, and I think I trust the team at Sucker Punch, and hopefully it comes out in like a year or two from now. And last question of the episode, and the only new person comes from Liam Neeson, or with a double E. And he wants to know, am I excited for Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, the animated anthology series, since a new trailer dropped during D23 Expo? Yeah, it looked good to me. I like the story that it's kind of focusing on. It looks like it has like two different... It's a 6-part series divided in two different storylines, roughly involving the early days of Ahsoka training and what happened after the end of the Clone Wars, and then focusing on really the fall of Dooku. And I think that the fall of Dooku, at least for me personally, is going to be the more interesting storyline, because we really didn't get too much of him during the Clone Wars series or even in the films. So I think focusing a little bit more on his backstory, if you haven't read the books about him, is going to make his character very, very interesting for people who don't know too much about Dooku's backstory. All they probably know is that he was a Jedi at some point, but his fall was a lot more complex than some people would think. So I hope that the series actually goes in depth with it. And also seeing a young Qui-Gon will also be a really good thing to see, because even Qui-Gon during that period of time was also a very interesting character, and he got even better as he got older. So seeing him at that younger period under the tutelage of Dooku, I think is going to be just amazing to see, and I hope they handle it well. But knowing Dave Filoni, I'm sure it'll be great. It's definitely better than anything we've gotten in live action in like 10 years. So heck, I have no concerns there. And that'll do it for this episode of my weekly Q&A. Remember, if you have any more questions you would like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below. But make sure you get them entering roughly before next Wednesday, before about noon, before I start filming the next episode. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you all next time.